It is another Thursday, and we are here with the Eventful Life TV, and we are in our series Living Out Loud. I'm your host, Janelle Boyd, and I'm really excited to be back with you guys. You guys know I look forward to talking to you each week and for you to tune in and join me as I bring to you real women, real change, and we are just simply getting real. This month we've been kind of in a series of talking about back to school, homeschooling, moms who are working from home, and really just digging into, how are moms out here handling this? Because, let's be honest, it is a lot at times. But also, how are we planning our work? What are some ways that we're getting through this and managing to do both, right? From the professional and the personal aspect. And so I'm really excited about today's conversation because I think it is right in line with probably the place and the space that a lot of us are right now, as it pertains to grace. That is a word that I'm not going to even lie, y'all. I have used it time and time again in 2020. And I would venture to say that you probably have too. So today I have with me Darlene Taylor, who is listen, I asked her, I said, is it Darlene Taylor of the Recycled Mom? She said, no. It is Darlene Taylor, the Recycled Mom. I said, okay. So I love it. Hey, Darlene.
Hi, Janelle. Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
You too. Thank you for saying yes and coming on to join me this week. You and I have history. So, we obviously, I know she's like a little bit. In our many facets of life and many hats that we wear, we both have, our event planners and have walked that journey and walked that life together, which was so wonderful and is wonderful because, Darlene, you've always been somebody who I love dearly. You keep it real all the time, and you're always just a ray of light. So yes, I love you from that life, and I love you now too. So, I can't think of anybody else who I would love to have this conversation about grace with because, as I've seen you kind of transition yourself into, the recycled mom, you talk a lot about, just really being honest with yourself as a mom, giving yourself grace as a mom, and really creating that safe space for moms and women to feel okay with not being okay or being okay and everything in between, So I thought, when I started thinking about grace and just the fact that this was a conversation that needed to be had, I said, Darlene is definitely the perfect person for this. And I want to read you a quick quote about grace, and then we'll dive right in. So for grace, this is a quote that I found in an article. For grace is given not because we have done good works, but in order that we may be able to do them.
Yes.
That was so good.
Yes. With that comes a lot of responsibility when you're shown grace and you're given grace, to give it, to pay it forward, to give it to someone else. You've been forgiven, or you've been shown so much understanding, and you've been given that space, and then you turn around and to get that to the same thing to someone else. That is so needed. Because we can get caught up in just take, give me grace, give me the grace, but the challenge comes in turning it around and giving it to someone else. And but it's such a blessing to be able to do that.
Oh, yes.
More grace when you give it.
Right, right. And so I think that is a great place to start, because I'll be honest, and you and I talked about this earlier, I did not always think about grace as like a strength. I was like, grace, who needs that? I'm like, we can get this done. Like, we don't need that. Like, we can get it done. Balls to the walls, let's get it done, whatever. And I always thought of things like, you know what, you pull from your strength, you get it done, there are no excuses. But I see the faultiness in that, because obviously we're all going to have periods and moments where we aren't going to meet the mark. And so, to your point, if we are receiving it, because I'm sure I know at times I have received grace.
Oh yeah.
Then we have to be willing to turn around and then extend it.
Mm-hmm.
So tell
Yeah.
me about kind of how grace has kind of showed up in, just in your journey, for you.
Okay,
She's like, oh, that's a loaded question.
We're getting completely honest here. Okay, so well, first, now I'm a woman of faith. I'm a believer, and so I know the first time that I was shown grace is when I met Jesus Christ, and you know, when you have that meeting with Jesus, you feel about this big, but when you understand that He loves you in spite of yourself, and He died for you, and he had done so much because God loved us and He sent Jesus to do this for us. That is just grace that is just unfathomable to me when you feel so undeserving, because like you said, we don't hit the mark,
right? You're like, little old me.
I know, right? Like, how did I not hit that mark? And but when you know that you don't, and then here's Jesus, and He's like, I am showing you all kinds of grace. We're going to try again. We're going to do this again. And here you go. And I did this for you. And operating from that point, and then in the rest of my life, giving that back to others has just been a huge responsibility, that I take seriously. I've been forgiven so much. How can I not show that same extension of grace and understanding and patience and love to other people? But practically, in my life, my husband and I we celebrated 25 years. Can you believe it? Last March when COVID came, and
I know COVID has. We're gonna start talking about good old COVID here in a minute too, because COVID has made us really, really get comfy with grace a lot. But yes, it did come in and mess up a lot of plans for a lot of people.
Practically back up 20 years prior. So my husband, we were around 5 years into marriage, almost 5 years, and we almost didn't hit 5 years. We had a serious issue arise, and if it were not for grace, we would not have made it to 25 years. And so that took a lot of grace on both of our parts to understand. Again, we're all human, and we're trying, we do make mistakes, but in the growth of that, and if Jesus showing us grace through that as well, and if it were not for Him in the center of our relationship, I'm not sure I would be able to be here and say we had 25 years under our belts now. So so
that's huge.
It's like you said, it's grace is, sometimes you think is it a strength, but it's something that you can draw from. And it's something you can be reminded of, because every day when I fail in something, or if I don't meet that mark, or I might yell at my kids sometimes, but don't tell anybody, but yes, you do, right? Because you lose your patience, and you just and to be able to just say, hey, wait a minute, okay, even when I was against Jesus, and I was against, and I'm this, I made lots of mistakes, He still showed grace. So I'm going to show grace in this moment, because that's what we do, because that's what Jesus tells us to do. And that's where I operate from.
Right.
Just being able to see, everybody is created is in the image of God. We're all his image bearers, and everybody deserves grace, including
ourselves. Right. And like you said, I mean, we have to understand that, with grace comes the opportunity to get it right again the next time, right? Or to do it better the next time, or do it right the next time. And I think that's one of the things that I've been able to draw from through really understanding that grace gives you an opportunity to learn. It gives you an opportunity to grow. And so I think for me, that's what turned it around from me looking at it like, grace, that sounds weak, to like, no, this is actually, a powerful or quiet strength, right? It's actually comes from deep within. Let's talk a little bit about kind of just 2020 and this pandemic, because I think, one of the things that got me to thinking about grace is of course, you're seeing the word a lot this year from a lot of people, because this pandemic has caused us to realize that we do have limitations, right? That we do have things that we fail at, that we do have times where we're not going to always get it right. And because of that, we do have to give ourselves grace. We have to say, okay, you know what? You used the example earlier, like with your kids, it's like, okay, today was not a great day. It wasn't a bad day, but it wasn't a great day. Maybe I did get short-tempered with the kids. Maybe we didn't get the things done that I had planned for us to do. Maybe I didn't get the work done that I wanted to get done, but we have to extend grace to ourselves and to our kids, because what's the alternative? That we go around being mad all day, every day, or worse. Right, or beating ourselves up about it. So I think, that's where it's like, okay, I think this year really put grace into perspective for me, and I think for a lot of people. I've seen some of what I consider some of the strongest women who, their feet are always on fire. They're always, hitting the ground, running and things like that. But I've seen them really, have to taper it down a bit and say, okay, even though I'm still going to move forward, I've got to realize that I'm operating in different circumstances. So I can't operate at the same speed or in the same way, or, it's kind of like fish out of water. It's like, oh, this is not how I usually operate. So I gotta figure this thing out first.
Well, I've heard from a lot of moms, over the last 6 months, and you included, because I've been watching some of your shows, your TV shows, but some of the past shows, where I am not in the same boat, where a lot of moms have been just thrown into this. Because you guys, I believe you said that your son came home one day, is like, I'm not going back to school, and you're like, wait a minute, why not?
Right.
And all of a sudden your lives had just like changed abruptly. Whereas I grew into this, and I started with one child, and then we went to the next year. And then, and as we got older, we added a little bit more, and I learned a little bit more. And so that's where you really learn a lot of grace.
Yeah.
Got one set of moms are thrown into it, and then there's me that's kind of grown into it.
Right.
But we're all still we're doing the same thing, and we do need to give ourselves permission to forgive ourselves and to offer ourselves grace, and to permission to, it's okay to make a mistake. If we're not giving ourselves permission, then what are we showing our kids? Because then they're going to be like, oh, there's already so much pressure on our kids for as far as schooling and then life, all these the issues of life that we're facing right now and these different things. We've got a pandemic, and what is this? What do you mean what is all this stuff I have to do? And then more racial tensions, like you mentioned before, that we've ever had to deal with. Not that they haven't been there. It's just that they're just out in the forefront now because we have technology and we're seeing everything.
And we're all paying attention. Like, we don't have distractions at every turn, every angle, where, you know, when you're distracted, you're not really focused. Like, you're not really paying attention. It's almost like when somebody's talking to you and you're like, yeah. And they're like, okay, did you hear what I said? You're like, yeah. They're like, well, repeat it back to me. And then you're like, well, I heard it.
Yeah, no, you heard it, but you didn't like really listen.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and so that, I know that's been a challenge for a lot of moms. That's the challenge is you're learning and you're growing along with your children.
Yeah.
And not to mention, a lot of people were thrown in their homes together. Even we were, because, you know, I mean, even though I'm home with my kids all the time, now my husband is in the mix, and the one thing COVID has taught us is that whatever is already there in your life, if it, you know, and in your relationships and at home, COVID is that pressure is gonna, yes, it's gonna amplify it.
That's right.
What just happened here? And so then there's that whole life dynamic, and we did not even. It's funny because everybody that was coming home from public school and doing stuff at home, they were all frantic doing school, and I'm the homeschooler, and I stopped it because it's just nuts. And
I'm gonna be smart here.
Well, some of it I just naturally did because I ended up really talking to a lot of moms that first month. Mom, what do we do? How do we do this? I'm at home with my kids all the time, and how do you balance this and you know, and I'm kind of like, okay, I'm kind of going with the flow here. It's kind of nothing new. At first it wasn't so bad, but then, you know, we can't do our things either, and then the whole, you know, everybody's mashed in your house together, and
right. Yeah, no, I think it was a lot of adjusting, and still is. I mean, you know, if we haven't learned, you know, I said grace is like I would say grace is probably the emotive word, right? But in terms of the action word, I mean, we all have heard pivot, because literally at every turn it felt like that's what you needed to be doing in order to figure out, like, okay, what next? How do I adjust? You know? And I think, like you said, it was a lot of just days of figuring it out, because for once, nobody had like the secret sauce. Nobody had here's what you do, you know, or 5 steps to survive this pandemic, you know, like immediately, you know, it's like nobody had that. So
it wasn't in my curriculum either. I'm like, where is it? Curriculum? It's not in here. How do I do this?
Right.
You know? Yeah, it's oh gosh, you're so right. You're so right.
It was just like you had to figure it out for yourself and your family, and work, you know, what was working best for you. And that means, again, that not every day, not every moment were you gonna get it right. You know, you mentioned your husband. You know, my husband, he had some days where he was working from home, but then he had to still go into the hospital. Well, the days where he was working from home, I'm like, okay, I'm used to having like my space, and like, you know, you're here and you're in the space, you know. So it was like we had to figure it out. It was like, okay, you're gonna take this space, I'm gonna take this one on the days that, you know, on the days that you're home. You know, the kids. Let's talk a little bit about, you know, the homeschooling, virtual learning life, right? Because I know you mentioned you were doing that beforehand, and it actually makes sense to me, because even with the working from home, I'm like, I'm not a new kid on the block when it comes to working from home. I've been working from home for 10 years, you know, almost 10 plus years of my life. So I understand routine, I understand planning, I understand making sure that, you know, you have some structure. But this, when you throw everything else into the pot, right? Like, okay, nobody is leaving the home, everybody is there, you know, all of these things, that it still made it feel abnormal. And
Yeah.
so let's talk a little bit about, like, with homeschooling, even though you had been doing it,
Mhm.
did you find that it changed, like that things changed when the pandemic hit, or were you able just to kind of keep moving right through it, like you know, like you kind of had been doing?
Well, the core part of it, I would say, did not change. You know, I mean, we have our schoolwork that we had to
Yeah.
do every day. You know, and so like I've always joked, but it's serious at the same time, that we don't get snow days.
Right.
'Cause we just like, well, snow day, okay, we still do our homework and our schoolwork, and we can go outside and play. Snow days didn't really affect us, so we didn't have to extend our year or anything like that. So the core part of it stays the same.
Okay.
But the rest of it did affect us as well, because we don't have our co-ops. We can't meet, we can't
Mhm.
gather. So,
So
and
now the co-ops, let me just make sure, you know, we understand here. So the
oh,
co-ops were where you were meeting with other families who
yeah.
also were doing homeschooling?
Yeah, so in my area, we have co-ops that actually meet in a building, so meet like one day a week. And so we would go
Okay.
out and meet in a building, and everyone's different. Some are almost a full day, where you would go from like maybe 9 to 2, and actually it's almost like a classroom environment. And
Mhm.
then some are more for socialization, and some are
Okay.
more like where everyone shares a little bit, like this month we're all gonna focus on some kind of a science thing, or this month we're going to focus on art, or there's always some kind of physical activity, so the
Okay.
kids can, you know,
So
get to.
that had to come to a halt because obviously you
Yeah,
couldn't be out interacting with other people.
yeah, exactly. We know everybody shut down, and so there wasn't any place to go anyway. And so like I mentioned, like libraries, any kind of dance class for my
Mhm.
daughter, that was gone, because she was doing it at home on Zoom. They finished out her year on Zoom, so that was kind of weird.
Kind of
But
weird, yeah.
at the same
How do you
time,
do dance on Zoom?
I know.
I'm I have to pause you there because that thought just crossed my mind. Like, how do you do that on Zoom? Like, I
Well,
think.
I thought kudos to the dance academy that she was in, because I thought they did a great job. So the teacher for that particular class would have her student out, all the kids would get on there, and it's funny because because like it's just two of us here, but
Yeah,
she has the whole grid.
the whole
And
square.
she had maybe 12 students, I think.
Yeah.
And then so you see her, and she would do all the exercises that they would do in the beginning, all the core work, and then they would put a routine together. So you've got kids that are either maybe in their basement, or like Becca was in our big family room, and we pushed some furniture out, and she was doing the stuff in there, and everybody we'd see pets every once in a while and stuff. But so it's not the same. My daughter would tell you that it's not the same. And that's how they're starting the fall. So they're
Oh
starting.
wow, wow. I mean, yeah, people are getting creative for sure. Like I think I've seen a lot of things on Zoom that never in my life would I have thought that I would see I would see going on. But they're getting very
Happy
creative.
hour. My husband has happy hour after work or something. They'll be like, "Hey, we're having happy hour," and I'm just like, "What is going on?"
Right, right. So yeah, you do. You walk into some rooms in your house and you're like, okay, there's some very interesting things happening right now, but but you just go with it.
I just checked your door. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean, we did. Some people would say, "Oh, well, you know what you're doing. This is like, nothing for you." And I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. We did have some changes, because then we
Yeah,
couldn't go anywhere either, because all
right.
these extra activities that we do, from like dance classes and music and all these extra activities,
Yes,
everything is closed. So there's
right.
nowhere to go. We would, well, my kids would say, "Mom, I'm getting tired of walking around the same block," and so then I'm like, "Well, we'll
Exactly.
go to the
Yes.
park." Walk
Exactly. I think we all felt at times like, okay, enough is enough, or the walls are starting to close in here, because you needed that outlet or that source of, just different scenery, socialization, whatever it was. And again, going back to the word grace, I think that is literally where it's like, okay, you have to really understand that we're not this, somebody get upset, get an attitude, like you gotta, kind of be like, okay, I'm gonna let you have it because
Good. Yes.
yes, because I think I understand that you're blowing off some steam, or this is not a normal situation, and so everybody goes to their corners until you can play nice, right?
Perfect example of grace right there.
Exactly. Yes, and I probably have had that moment with every single one of my family members that live in my house. So.
And your husband, because like you go to your room, I'll go to mine. We all have our own space.
Exactly. So I think that's so important, and it's really teaching me how to extend that beyond my four walls, right? Like I truly believe that hopefully we see this as an opportunity to be better people, because we now can empathize better. We now can be more compassionate when it comes to situations and circumstances. I think I shared with my husband the other day, I said the worst thing would be to come out of this pandemic and not be changed at all. Like come out of this the exact same person you were, 7 months prior to this pandemic happening. Because where's the growth? Where's the learning?
Right.
So the other side of that is that, Darlene, we also, like you mentioned, we have the racial tension, the racial upheaval that is also kind of grabbing our attention, grabbing our emotions, to say the least. I mean, I have definitely had to just take a deep breath, walk away, reset, shut it down. I mean, all the above, right? It's really heightened the emotions. And you and I were talking earlier before we came on live, and you were sharing, about a situation that, that happened with your daughter, that the family was not willing to kind of extend that grace, or just wasn't willing to come to the table and like hash it out or talk it out.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and so what do you think right now, like with the racial upheaval that is happening, where do we insert grace with that? Because I know that we still have a ways to go, right? Like there's still things that are happening that unfortunately are not okay, that show and make, I know, the Black community make us feel like our lives are not equal. And so how do you feel grace plays a part when it comes to, the racial part of things that are happening around us right now?
I wish I could just slap grace into people.
Right.
I'm so, I know this profound answer, right?
Can't we just make them have grace?
I know, right? I mean, I literally just would like to. I'm gonna. How you see people say I'm gonna slap you into next week if you don't.
Yeah, I saw a meme recently that was like, you know what, I think I'm going to take my mom up on that offer of slapping me back in the last year. And I chuckled so bad because I was like, as crazy as that sounds, I kind of feel like that right about now.
And so one of the ways I think about this a lot, because I deal with over the last 12 years, I've dealt with the people who suffer with an addiction of some sort. And that they come in all walks of life. I mean, when it comes to addiction and things like this, mental issues and things that it knows no race or gender or anything. Anybody is susceptible to any of these things. And just coming from, if boy, I just think, can't we all just get along? But I think if we're all treating people, I don't know if this is gonna sound cliche or not, but it's just like everyone needs to know that they matter.
Yeah.
This one of the things I do here at the Recycle Mom is trying to get people to understand that you, no matter what you've done, no matter where you're from, no matter what you look like, anything, it's you matter because you are worthy. And and like I told you at the beginning, I'm a woman of faith. And when we operate from that, everyone is an image bearer of God. So this next person, you, and the next person over there, and this next person, and everyone in my house, and this, we're all little image bearers of God. And if I can learn to see someone the way God sees them, as they are a worthy, valuable soul. Yeah. And that's how God sees us. Yeah. And he sees past all of this, whatever that we have here, and he sees our soul, and that's what he cares for, and that's what he loves. And that's where I try to operate from. If we could get everybody to think the same way, did we see everyone as a valuable, but we teaching. I think the important part is that, like you said, moms who lead with love, and that group, and the things that we're doing here in the Recycle Mom, is that we're just we are training others to see other people as an individual, valuable, worthy soul.
Yeah.
All right. Above all of the other stuff, like even my kids, if they make a mistake, I've told them, you can make a big mistake in your life. You could, there was actually one time, one of my kids said, I don't like you. And I just don't, maybe I should just go to public school, blah, 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 whatever, those, I'm okay. I love you anyway.
And I'm sure you're like, okay, well, let's just have you do that.
Sometimes I was like, yeah, there's the bus, go get on it. I don't say that, but sometimes it's
right. You probably thought it.
But if that's what we're trying to teach them, is that, and I want them to know it. If I can teach my kids and the people I come in contact with, that I can show them that they're valuable and they're worthy regardless, then maybe they can show that to other people, and then they can show that to other people, that we all just need a little bit of we all need to understand that we're all worthy. And I think that's just the key. One of my core beliefs, that's a key for me right there, is that, we're all in this, and we're all worthy of justice and mercy and grace. And
and it's absolutely a condition of the heart,
Yes.
It is absolutely a condition of the heart. I have prefaced the quote before, from Nelson Mandela, that nobody comes here hating another person. It's if you can be taught to love, or hate, if you can be taught to hate, you can be taught to love,
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I think that is, when you talk about core values, I think that love just has to be a core value, and it has to be at the center of everything that we do and how we, treat people. So I think that's where I see the grace being extended, because while we are trying to build these bridges and kind of close these gaps, I think that's where we have to be willing to extend the grace. We've been reading a book in our Moms Who Lead with Love group. We've been reading a book called So You Want to Talk About Race. And one of the things that I really appreciated is that she says in the book, we're going to get things wrong. Like, you're going to get things wrong. I'm going to get things wrong. We are all going to get things wrong. We're going to mess up. So we have to be prepared to be okay with the messing up and not be so paralyzed by trying to get it perfect that we don't do anything, right?
Yes.
Because I think there's so much of us that wants to make sure we get, like, I don't want to say that because what if that's the wrong thing? I don't want to do that because what if that's the wrong thing? I don't want to think that because what if that's the wrong thing? And it's like, you got to be okay with, it might be the wrong thing. but you can come back from that. Like, it's
Right.
not like, oh, Darlene, I can't believe you said that. Like, that's it. You're doomed. You're forever doomed. There is no saving you.
Yeah, that's a real thing, Janelle.
Yeah.
Fear. People are operating out of a lot of fear today, and for so many areas.
Yeah.
I mean, talking from homeschool to the pandemic to, well, I have a mixed group of friends. Am I going to say something wrong? And then we don't say
Right.
anything, because
Right.
or we fall all over ourselves. And like you said, we do have to be okay. We have to be okay to fail, or and actually fail is just learning. So it's just another
Right.
learning process. So
Right.
allow yourself, okay, yeah, I put my foot in my mouth. Okay, I'm sorry, and then move on. And if we're all operating from that, gosh, that would be a perfect world. But if we can, we can all operate.
It would be a perfect world, Darlene. Like,
Right?
literally,
People.
Um, right, right. But I think that, that is the root of grace. And like, it kind of takes me back to that quote that I read when we opened up here, which is, it allows you to basically do what you are trying to do. It doesn't mean that in doing it, you won't trip up, you won't fall flat on your face, but the grace is what allows you to get back up and do it again or try it differently. So I think, I do agree with you. I hope and continue to wish that we all find a little bit of that, a little bit of that grace, because it can certainly make a whole heap of difference.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. When in a world that wants to define us or redefine us, and it is always trying to do that. We don't have to be defined by that. We don't have to be defined by what other people say about us. We
Right.
get in touch with our core value system.
Yeah.
I'm a loyal person. I'm a good person.
Yeah.
And deep down, I really am. And this other stuff, no, this is just not right. I'm
Yeah.
going to do that, and just, we don't have to let anybody else define us. And again, as we're giving yourself some grace, will be, because you're learning about yourself. So that would be
Yeah.
enough
Yeah.
too.
Okay, well, before we close out, I have one final question for you. And this is what I call my bonus question. So, I don't let you know what it is before, because then you would already have it prepared in your mind. And, we what's the most challenging moment? Like, if you think back, what's the most challenging moment for you in which you had to extend grace to someone? And maybe, you may have touched on this before with your husband, but what is the most challenging moment? Because I do think that, one of the things that I do think is coupled with or connected with grace is that sometimes it can be a big failure, right? And not that, again, we've already said here that not that failure is something that is completely detrimental. But nonetheless, it does sting. Like, it does, when you first fall flat on your face, like literally and physically, it does hurt. So what's kind of been the biggest challenge for you when you had to extend grace to someone?
One of the biggest moments in my life, and I said, and this was a long time ago. So I was young. I was a teenager, and there was a man in our home that did not treat me well. I'll just say that, to try to be nice and kind of clean on here. But it's not really about him. It's about more about my mom, because a lot of people could point to her and say, why didn't she take care of you? Why didn't she do this? And she's supposed to be your protector, and this, that, and the other thing.
Right.
And I didn't understand everything that was going on, in the home. I mean, I understood kind of what was going on with me, but going on in the home, and that whole dynamic, and as when we got away, and extending grace to my mom
Mm,
is actually more, I wasn't mad or anything, but just, I guess it's more of an understanding, is that I didn't understand exactly everything that she was going through,
right.
and and offering that grace for her to do her own healing,
Right.
because I have my own, but for her. And
Right.
so learning to, I don't know if I actually knew that was grace that I was extending. I was
At the
just
time, right?
right,
Yeah.
yeah, more
Yeah.
like patience,
Yeah.
or just trying to understand
Understand.
her, right? Because what each of us went through, while some of it was similar, hers was completely different,
Yeah.
because there's that whole dynamic of a relationship there that she
Right.
had.
Right.
And that's a completely different thing. And so just kind of trying to offer her that space of, mom, it's okay. You didn't, it wasn't a failure, because
Mm.
like we said before, some of your darkest moments or your biggest mistakes can be some of where the biggest growth happens. And
Happens. Absolutely.
so just
Absolutely.
offering her that grace, and even myself, just
Hmm.
learning what to notice for future things, or whatever. And I'm
Sure.
carry
Like
a lot of
mindfulness.
that into
Yeah.
cycle mom. And so yeah, so it was a lot of just on a personal level, for
Mhm.
those mid teenage years.
Yeah, yeah. But I would say it probably has also helped shape who you are now, you
Yeah.
know?
Mhm.
And I think that's also the beauty of grace is it's like while you learn, it also kind of you carry it with you, right? Like you become
Yeah.
shaped by it. And so I think that's probably another wonderful thing because it comes with understanding. It comes with we already said, empathizing, right? Like it really truly empathizing with someone else and being able to look at another person's perspective of what, like you said with your mom, like not even realizing like, okay, I didn't even realize like this is what you were dealing with,
Yeah.
right? At that time, I knew, what I was dealing with, but I didn't know what you were dealing with.
Right.
And so I think it allows you to try to step into the opposing side or the other person's
Yeah.
shoes for a moment as well, to extend that, to be able to extend that grace to them. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. I
Oh,
appreciate that.
yes. And,
Yeah.
just it's with people that don't understand those types of relationships, the domestic side,
Yeah,
it's you're giving grace to them as well,
absolutely.
so that not everybody understands what you're going through or what that was like. And so I think if we can all come at today's situations that we are facing, for, in the political arena, or the health arena, or any of these things, is just understanding we don't always know where the other person is coming from. And so it really is a give and take.
Yeah, and I will say that that hits home with the recent. I don't know if you have seen, the recent passing of Chadwick Boseman, who played Black Panther. That was his more popular roles or famous roles. But I was reading a article where one of the actors who played with him in the Five Bloods, which was the last role that he played,
Mhm.
he was recalling how Bozeman was on set and how basically he felt like he was being catered to a lot. So like, his wife was there with him and she was making sure he was comfortable. People were getting him water, they were rubbing his back. And he recalls being like, okay, what is this? Like, does this dude think he's like God or does he think he's like, kind of, he mentioned like Hollywood, Hollywood famous now.
Yeah.
And so he kind of was judging from what he saw, not really understanding what was going on behind the scenes.
Right.
And I'm like, wow. And so fast forward, of course, once finding out, as the world did, finding out the news that he had been battling colon cancer for the last 4 years,
Yes.
he said in that article, like, I feel horrible because I didn't extend the grace. Like I should have been extending grace to this guy. based on what
Yep.
he was going through, you know. And it is just a profound lesson to me. I mean, that hit home like nothing before, because it is a profound lesson that we have to really make sure that we always lead with grace. Like, grace is what needs to be led with. It can't be the latter. It has to be the former, because we don't know, especially right now, we don't know what people are going through. We don't know what's happening, truly happening behind the scenes, you
Yep.
know. So, you know, and again, just like your mom, we don't know what they are experiencing. So we really have to lead with grace like never before.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Absolutely.
Well, Darlene, share with everybody. I have really enjoyed this conversation with you, and thank you again for coming on to the Eventful Life. Share with everybody how they can stay connected with you, because I'm sure they're going to want to hear from the recycled mom, especially for especially for some of my moms out there, and just women in general. Let them know how they can stay connected with you.
Well, I am on social media, like everywhere. And if you just search for the Recycled Mom, you should find me on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. It's the Recycled Mom everywhere. And I am getting a new website. So if you go to therecycledmom.com, it'll say under construction. But I'm getting a
Which is fitting for the recycled mom, right? Like under construction.
We're talking like a phoenix here, you know. It's like we died, and my real website did, and it's like, whew, it's gonna get a whole new look and everything. So
I love it. I can't wait to see it.
yeah, I'm excited. And when we get the website up, you'll be able to see more of the I guess I get to say programs now, but
yes,
just some of the things that I do with women. But one of the things that I'm doing, and I'll offer to your followers and your whoever's watching, you know, if you my email is also very easy, the recycled mom at gmail.com.
gotten it by now.
Right, like I said, I am the recycle mom everywhere. But one of the things I do with women, and I love to do this, it maybe takes about half an hour, it could take an hour, but everyone, if you send me an email and say, you know, just let me know you saw me on Janelle's show, and you want to learn about your core values, okay? And what we do is I go through and we sit down, well, we on the phone, and and we'll talk about getting to understand what your inner core beliefs are and living true to your inner core beliefs. A lot of us don't really know what our inner core belief system values, like who we are here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And we're not living true to ourselves. We're trying to do a whole bunch of other things, and we're going to learn how to drop the labels and live
that is so good
beliefs rather than the label that either you put on yourself or someone else puts on you, or what you think up here. So so anyway, it doesn't take long. It's just like maybe 30 minutes to an hour, but it will go through, have a little worksheet, and get you to just change your perspective. And that's what the Recycle Mom, like you said, is I used to think this way, now I think this way. Yes. So we want to be to thrive at life, not just surviving. So.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I know that there are a lot of us that could use tapping into our core beliefs, as well as understanding how to remove labels from who we are, and just, that it very much resonates with me, because a lot of that is built into the living out loud philosophy of, removing labels and really living out loud as your true self, showing up as your true self. So thank you so much, Darlene. This has been a wonderful conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope that you got some nuggets and takeaways from it, especially as it relates to grace. Again, I say classes in session because, y'all, we still got 90 days before 2020 is over. So I listen, if you still need to get that PhD in grace, you still got time. But I hope
student in there.
Yes. You know what? We are lifetime students, especially in life as it stands itself. But thank you guys, and make sure you join us next week, next Thursday, same time at 1 o'clock. Make sure you head over to the YouTube channel and subscribe there if you haven't done so. Subscribe there. We'll be heading back over there for the month of September, which we will start our new series of Living Out Loud. So stay tuned as I share with you guys what that will be for the rest of the month of September. It's going to be a good one. So thank you guys. Enjoy yourself. And remember, you can have everything you want, but it needs to be on your terms and your time. Thank you guys. Have a good one.